Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Line. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Taking a deep dive in the arts of mime and choreography.
Well,
do you see this skill?
Oh, yeah. That's like if I was to make a study of it, maybe it would be like a skillogy.
That was a rough one.
Anyways.
Skillogy.
So this is the skillogy. Now,
except it's a skillology.
No, it's skillogy.
It's skillogy.
Yes.
Just not skillology.
Yeah, it's not skillology. It's skillogy. Because it's not the study of skill, but it's the trilogy of skill.
Of the skillet. Because we're back in Skillet November.
Yeah.
Why the November? We don't know why it's November.
Yeah,
but it's skillet songs all this month.
Skillet's November.
You don't need much skill, but let's have a nice episode.
Anyway, so the Skillogy is we're actually doing last week we did Not Gonna Die, which is a song in and of itself. And then today we're doing the Skillogy, which we're actually doing the first two songs of the Skillogy, which the three songs of the Skillogy are Good to Be Alive, The Death Interlude, and Not Gonna Die. So we're going to skip over Not Gonna Die, and we're going to do Good to Be Alive and Death Interlude.
Because we already did the other one last week.
Because we already did the last one.
So when you choreographed this one, was the idea to connect these, or was it just that you had Good to Be Alive and you're like, heck, let's throw in the next one?
Yeah, so for the most part, Brooklyn Ramseyer choreographed these first two. She really wanted to connect them to Not Gonna Die. So you'll notice the choreography is exactly the same as regular Not Gonna Die. She wanted to kind of like have a transition, a movement into that. Because actually, if you're familiar with the Skillet album that this comes from.
Oh, yeah.
The Good to Be Alive song comes directly before Not Gonna Die. And there's actually an interlude in between there that connects those two songs thematically.
Is that an official separate track? I thought it was just the interlude was at the end of that track.
That is technically correct.
Okay.
But for the most part, when people listen to Good to Be Alive, you're not actually listening to the outro, the conclusion of that.
Well, I listened to the whole album from front to back, which would include this because there's a piece.
But that's a totally normal thing. And like in a lot of Toby Mac songs, you'll find a lot of those interlude songs that play on the end of an album. So it's technically not an extra track, but it is another song.
Well, and I would call this instead of an interlude. I mean, it is interlude between the two songs, but I'd almost call it like the prelude. That's what it is. Sorry.
Yeah, prelude would probably be
prelude.
A more
prelude.
Okay, whatever. The lude would probably wait. No, that's not right.
This would be a prelude.
So
this would be before the song, even though it's a separate track.
Yes, and the prelude, the interlude / prelude would actually be more related to Not Gonna Die than it would be to Good to Be Alive. But the reason why she wanted it to kind of merge all together is thematically you move from like Good to Be Alive, which is a lot of stuff about everything is great as you are progressing through life. And in the song, it relates to more practical real life situations. Then you get into the death interlude, which then pushes you into Not Gonna Die, which is all about like the more spiritual aspects of it. So the Skillogy here is about moving from Good to Be Alive in the practical real life situations into the Not Gonna Die of the spiritual warfare aspects. That was the intention of it. But Brooklyn was looking for. Of course, I helped her along with it as we were going through choreographing the song. So.
Yeah, no, this is classic Skillet as far as their lineup. One of the funniest examples of this is from the Awake album, where it's like, hero, we need a hero. I'm a monster. Well, that was a hard turn. Don't wake me. Awake and alive. Like, what are we doing, Skillet? We're going back and forth. Like, we're just bipolaring and all over the place. So this song has that. Good to Be Alive. And then We're Not Gonna Die Tonight. Yeah. So did you label it Death Interlude then? Because I don't think that's officially.
I labeled it the Death Interlude.
The royal you / Brooke, but
yeah, Brooke. I recommended it be put into Death Interlude, but Brooklyn, she approved it. So
it's a solid song. When was this choreographed?
This was choreographed in 2022.
Nice.
So
not that old.
It's not that old, but it is also like. I mean, we'll get into it. So
let's do it.
Yeah.
This is like just too happy for Skillet, in my opinion.
Kind of.
Just a very normal guitar intro.
It's like a really positive feel song. Yep. So here we have the people in the lunch line. We kind of had fun with what's going on here. And our main character, Avery, is trying to be accepted by the school, the cool kids at the school.
Classic. Yeah, nope, the lunch line makes sense. You're doing the same things. You have a little interlude to set up the scene.
Yep. And the way that we tried to develop this song is showing like the rejection that she gets because she has the Bible and thus is being more Christian. So they're trying to push her out of it.
Right. The only critique I would give here was just that it's a long time. That's a matter of filling it with characterization and otherwise. Yeah.
Yep.
I know it's a small team, but it's just not a whole lot happening. But
yeah.
At least you got that good to be alive too with the scripture and things like that.
Yeah. And so we're kind of like here. Once again, we're looking at like the more concrete kind of ideas and moving into kind of the abstract with the spiritual kind of aspects of it, which will get more intense as we get into the second half of the Skillogy.
Right.
All right. So then she approaches a second time, and here, you can see that she's really struggling with her faith. So by, you could say, rejecting the Bible, she gets in with the cool kids who, what's actually happening here is they're having like a food fight thing. So we got like, here's some mashed potatoes. Oh, and here's Sean with this whole tray, and he tossed the whole tray.
Nope, that's pretty clear. The mime technique of it's fun.
Yep. And so though she's in the crowd, she's kind of like apprehensive about it. And everybody can kind of see through that. And it's like, all right, look, we know that you're not really doing this. Just get out of here.
No, this second verse feels this time a little bit better. Rejection.
Yep. And then they all kind of move into a locker situation, different places, in the school, putting up books. And once again, they kind of are pushing against her, like, put your
books on the ground.
Pushed your books out, slammed your stuff into the locker and so forth. And this was actually kind of a fun thing to transport the Bible back over, where Jack here noticed Avery's books dropped and was kind of like wanted to be really nice and help her pick up books. And along the path also picked up the Bible, like, well, here's one of your books. I hope you have a better day. Which then puts the Bible in her hand, where she realizes, great, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like, I can see by being in the faith, it's not really helping me. So I just don't think I want it anymore.
Nope, I think that's all clear. Not much I would add as far as commentary on it.
Yep. And so then finally we get into now that you've rejected, here we're closing in on like Act 2, if you will. The issues have been established. Now we see, Satan is actually questioning. It's like, well, if this is what you want, then you don't need the Bible. You don't need Jesus. And we have this fun little moment right here, where she reaches over the shoulder. That we'll get to that in a second, to get the Bible out of her hand. So you'll see that in a second.
Right. Again, there's just a long time here before
there's
the Bible actually leaves.
Right there.
But that is a very clever device.
All right, and then we kind of have fully transitioned from the concrete school system into more of the spiritual aspects, as we get into the death interlude. So we get a couple of demons who orbit around Avery here. And what I told him to do is to kind of like
the weave
they're kind of orbiting at different layers. So Avery is like the planet in the center, maybe the sun. Jack is the first planet, Sean is the second planet, and Paige is the third planet. So you'll see them kind of like in various sizes of circle. And then God and Satan are like the furthest out orbit, who are orbiting around each other, basically.
Imagine using circles here.
So we're using a bunch of circles and stuff like that.
Especially as Avery moves around the stage.
Yep. And then by moving through this, we get into beginning positions. So like we have temptations here, and then we'll get into the beginning positions for Not Gonna Die, which is then right here.
And then the big cape comes off to become Jesus.
Yeah, the cape comes off to become Jesus, and then we do Not Gonna Die, which we'll stop it here.
And fade.
Yeah, we'll stop it here because back to last week if you're going to watch Not Gonna Die.
Just go watch that one.
Just watch the whole thing.
Yeah. But they link down below for this whole video. So if you really want to watch this version of it, you can do that right now. Nothing's stopping you.
Yeah,
you live your life.
Yeah. You are in control of your own destiny. Wait, are you going too far with
That's a little too far.
Okay. You are in control of some of your destiny.
Depending on how you hold the sovereignty of God and free will in your belief system.
You are in control of clicking the button to go and watch this video.
And then mash that like scribe.
And you are in control of mashing that like scribe. You're not in control of free will is a lie created by the government to sell more cheese.
Do we really need to sell more cheese?
You should look up what they talk about government cheese. It's really funny.
Anyways, where they hide it in caves.
Yeah, they hid a bunch of cheese in caves. It's a really funny situation.
Link down below for the government conspiracy of him hiding cheese in caves.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right. So now that we've come back from wherever that tangent was, purpose and message? ?
Yeah.
Cheese.
So like I said in the intro, the initial idea was to kind of connect Not Gonna Die, the abstract spiritual aspects into more of a concrete situation of the person's life, like what led them to that kind of point. That was kind of the reason that it was choreographed. Of course, the message itself is about the physical aspects of the real world that can then torment you into spiritual torment. Because a lot of these things don't just come about by themselves. Because if it's really like a question of, would you choose to be evil or be good? Of course, everyone's going to be like, well, be good, of course. Or if it's a question of, do you want to go to heaven or do you want to go to heaven? Of course, everyone's going to heaven.
Yeah.
But a lot of our issues of what we struggle with as human beings is rooted in our experience in reality. So having that kind of concrete aspect of it to exemplify the spiritual is really where the message kind of comes in.
Yep. Nope. I appreciate that part of its message that it delivers, where it's like, here's the concrete and then here's the behind the scenes, so that when you're trying to, like, a lot of songs focus in either one or the other, where there's not like this middle ground. So I appreciate that there's the tangible, real scenes, but then there's also this kind of background stuff. Fight Inside, it's kind of a mild example of that, where you got a clear relationship, a clear problem, but then all of the heart and the inward stuff that's going on, then kind of getting the inward right helps you get the outward right. So focusing on both those.
Yep, absolutely. And where I'd put this in a presentation, this is one of those that I think is
could be the presentation.
Technically, yes. If you have a short enough presentation, this could be the presentation. I think it is one of those that like would go somewhere in the middle to late, because it establishes the issue of, really now I'm thinking about it, somewhere in the middle between like it would go. I'm trying to sort my thoughts. Okay, like give me a break. So where you would put this in a thematic presentation is in the idea of sin, because you need to understand like who God is and what sin is before you can get into why you need a savior. So it would go like early in that kind of a format.
Well, it transitions to a little bit of the savior, but not the full message of it. So kind of like when we talked about with Not Gonna Die last week, you would put this in that beginning stages of understanding it, and then get some probably more clarity of the life of Jesus or something.
Yep. And then in the kind of classic structure, this is more of an intense type song, or at least it ends in that with Not Gonna Die. So I'd put it closer to the end there, where not quite at the end. So it is a bit versatile in where you would put it based on like what your structure is. So this could just about go anywhere as long as you're strategic in the structure that you're going with. That's what I would say.
Nope, I would agree. Just know what songs you're putting before it, if you have speakers or otherwise. Positive things about the song itself, the whole. We kind of talked about Not Gonna Die last week, so just focusing mostly on the good of It's Good to Be Alive.
Good to be alive. And the death interlude. Honestly, I really had a good time with the death interlude, because Brooklyn had this idea, like she put that in there and she's like, I want to make it so it transitions kind of nicely to Not Gonna Die. And like, that was the idea of like everything landing there. And so as she was working with that, I kind of gave her this idea of the orbiting and everything like that. And she was like, I really like that idea, so I want to go with that. So we made it, honestly, that part is super easy.
Oh, yeah.
All that's happening is people just circling around, and the main is walking basically to her beginning spots, and the demons are orbiting around her as she walks.
Oh, yeah.
And then Satan and God are orbiting around her.
Satan's giving cues, and then being opposite Jesus. Like, it's not much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She literally gives the cues, where the demons don't even need to remember the cues, because Satan just taps them for the cues and tells them, get out there. Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
So like difficulty is going to go super down for that part, but then for examining the whole thing as a whole, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
But as far as Good to Be Alive goes, I like, once again, the aspects of trying to concretize. Is that a word? I'm going to make it a word.
To make concrete.
To make concrete. So to concretize it.
Which is also like an idiom, because what does it mean to concrete something?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, to make
solidify, which is also another same way of saying the same thing.
Yeah. To make the abstract into concrete. It does that. I think I like that aspects. Honestly, the clarity of the situation of it being like a school grounds and peer pressure and things like that. I feel like that is pretty clear as far as like the setting goes, which we'll get into critiques in a bit on what happens.
Yeah, there's not too much packed in, which means you have time to make things clear. So it's clear that it's a lunch line. It's clear that there's peer pressure. There's third event that's like them making fun and dropping her books, and then somebody helping her out. All that, no problem seeing the dilemma that she's in. She wants to be cool. She feels like she has to give up scripture to do so. I have no problems there.
Yep.
Also, the concept as a whole, going from concrete to more abstract, kind of behind the veil, I think is something that's unique enough, hasn't been done in a ton of songs, and helps people in the audience to go like, oh, this is a problem, not just because it's peer pressure, but because of the behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. So then, critique.
So
I have a lot of critiques.
I have a lot of critiques too. I like all love to Brooklyn. She's been a long-time friend of mine and has been in mine. I'm really passionate about it for a long time. So this goes out to you, Brooklyn. I'm not critiquing you as a person.
I am. No, I'm not.
But the mime itself, yeah, like she has only choreographed a few songs, which means that there's some of them that are not quite as good as we would like them. And,
that's what we're here for.
I have grown as a person. I know that you can.
We won't talk about Jesus Freak
when
again.
You come to that. Anyways, so point being, there's a lot of things I would critique. So one of them, the very obvious glaring issue is like there's a lot of dead time. Mm-hmm. We tried to fill that in as best we could, but I feel like it got really warbly. Of what was supposed to happen is that there's actual like specific conversations going on where it's supposed to be each of the person is like asking them something like, well, what's that for? And she's like, oh yeah, this is a Bible. I'm a Christian. Like, no, the next person is like, well, so why are you a Christian? Like that sounds really dumb. Like the things are supposed to be a bit more specific as to what's going on in the first scene. And then the second is we got like each individual person has like a different food type that they toss, and they each like it's supposed to gradually go up in intensity. And whenever they kind of push her around in the locker scene, it's supposed to be really exaggerated of like, you can see what's going on where all of these issues have come to fruition because of who the main is as a person. She's trying to be a Christian, but isn't really sure about her faith, but is still trying to follow Christ until she ends up fully rejecting it. Yeah. Like there's supposed to be that buildup throughout, but there ends up just being a lot of dead time and a lot of the nuances missed.
Yeah, it's hard to do conversation well without other things to help make it clear. That's where my biggest critique is mostly just in how the conversations are portrayed. Some of it like gesturing to the Bible, super clear. Other parts where the longer the conversation, the less clear it gets. You're just looking like them doing like this the whole time. Mm-hmm. That's where you need either Jesus to come in sooner to like suggest something. You need to like pause the scene to give the person a monologue, gesturing for a moment, or some level of mime technique, mime tropes in order to be like, oh, this person's really struggling with that. You get a little bit of it with the chorus, the first one notably, but I think some of that conversation is just lost and needs to add people or things into it to give it space and clarity rather than the whole verse being just them doing this the whole time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that was a lot of Kansas style. So I would critique that as far as just mime technique. Adding it in there will help a lot.
Also, the death interlude, like, and the fact that this is a trilogy at all was like some people criticized it in general for like it didn't really need to exist. I feel like I honestly don't agree with that. Some people have voiced that. It's like, well, it's Act 1 and Act 3 are so disjointed from each other. But I actually like the reason that she did that, the direction that she went with making it kind of from concrete to abstract. I think that's such a cool idea. Maybe that part is missed and could be clearer, because what ends up happening is it feels like you're just going from this song to that song, and they're not related.
I would agree with you there. I don't think that there's such a distinction, and but it's people who loved the original song,
Mhm.
so then they're asking why. And when the first song needs more polish, there could be a, well, why were you doing this at all? So trying to get that first song to match the intensity and the polish of the second song, which is just to be expected with new stuff. So I think it's a good thing that exists. For me, the clarity of the storyline could use some help, particularly when we get to Act 3. The book being brought by Jack was not clear to me, because her books were dropped over here. So I'd rather it be something like she picks it back up, they knock it out of her hand to add to that persecution level, and then he helps pick it up or something. Part of that could be the staging and number of people you had. I recognize it's a smaller team, so there could be something to be said about if they were closer, or however that blocking works. But then after that, it's super confusing, where she chooses to say no to God. And then Satan's like, but what about the Bible? And then she's like, yeah, I love the Bible. Like, that is confusing to me and feels like it's more filling time rather than developing the story. At that point, she had already rejected. So I'd almost rather have Satan come first, do the whole stealing the Bible thing, and then her saying like, yeah, why is this good for? And then her rejecting Jesus or something.
That actually, I do like that change a lot better, because that was something I struggled with. The reason that they did it is they wanted to go from like, here's God all the way into here's Satan. But I feel like going back and forth isn't that big of a deal.
I don't know. It was unclear why she was like so adamant about rejecting God and then was like, no, I need this Bible. Or, it didn't storyline make plot sense. So.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And maybe it's a nuance I'm missing, but nuance is really hard to do when you're not talking.
Yeah. Welcome to one of the issues of mime in general. Things just nuanced. Sometimes are, the issue with nuance is that it's just not. No, like, in order to communicate a lot clearer things, you have to use a lot more detailed words and things like that, which we don't do in mime. That's the point.
That's literally what we're not doing. Cut it out, the words.
Yeah, and so in order to inject the nuance back into it, you have to find what things you want to emphasize and make sure that those things are emphasized clearly. And typically they end up being a bit simpler, which is okay. Like, we're doing this as an outreach, we're meant to portray the gospel in a way that people can understand and not talk on such hugely deep topics, so that way like you can base your entire theology on a mime song you watch. That's not the point. Like, the point is that you were trying to get across a message, and we want you to understand that, so that way you can grab that information, download it into your skull, and then use that to glorify God.
And if you want to get on nuance, that's where you make the whole song about the nuance. We have a song about propitiation. It's really hard, the concept of like taking off of one and putting it on, like that whole thing, but we have a whole song about it because it helps show that concept from beginning to end. Be like, oh, that's what Jesus did for me. Similar with forbearance. It's a difficult theological construct, and taking the whole song to emphasize that part of God helps people understand it. So similarly, more nuance, the more time you have to give to about that thing. And especially if it's just a song about whatever theological concept, that helps you add to the nuance. That way you can bang them over the head with it.
Yeah, the best way to preach the gospel is bang them over the head with it.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
So theologically, I don't think I have much of a problem with this one. It seems like it's like she doesn't want God because it's, I don't know, it makes sense. We already kind of gone over it. I don't really have much to add other than the cape thing is super epic, except where it doesn't matter that it was God and then Jesus. I don't know.
That was something that they did just specifically because it was
the original is Jesus.
The original was Jesus, which I think if you left it as God and not Jesus, that would probably have been fine.
It's super epic. Don't get me wrong. It's just one of those like, meh. Also, the fact that like Satan's linger. This is not about this song. This is actually just people standing in 00. When people stand in 00 with a big giant cape, they just look like a thing that the audience wants to look like. I'd almost just put Brooklyn to the side as Satan before she needs to come out, just because the whole time I'm like, oh, what's Satan doing over there? That I don't know. That's more of a less theological.
Yeah, that's usually the reason why I personally prefer when people are wearing capes and stuff to be down in like rock position.
Right.
So that's just me,
No, and I understand, but I don't think I have much to add theologically.
Yeah, no.
Don't give in to bullies.
Theologically, bullies, bad.
Bullies are no-nos.
If you're a bully, subscribe. Wait, no, sorry.
Bully gang down in
bully
the comments.
gang in the comments below. No, but theologically, yeah, we've talked about all that stuff. Not really much else to go into.
Yep. Clarity. Difficulty. Style. See, it's a trilogy. 3.
It's a trilogy of
rating systems.
Anyways.
And water buffalo, our fourth metric.
Water buffalo. Was there a water buffalo in this song? No, it gets a 0.
But everyone has a water buffalo.
Yours is fast, but mine's slow.
I thought yours was pink and mine was blue.
Where do we get them?
I don't know.
Everybody has a water buffalo. So anyways, we got...
If you have no idea what we're talking about, link down below. Shout out to the
my water buffalo?
Life.
Why don't I have a water buffalo?
Also, down below, I'm going to link so many things. The Super Chick version, which is by far the vast superior version.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Remember when Super Chick was relevant, like Skillet?
Ooh.
Clarity. It's relatively clear. The style is going to be where it's like up and down for me. Clarity, it does the thing. It just has dead time to fill, but a little bit of characterization and doing some things with the conversation. I don't know. I think I have to knock it off a few points only because of the staging at the end where it's like, why is this happening? And then similar with first half's clear, second half's less clear. So I'm going to go like, I don't know, second half's going down. I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, no.
It's difficult. It first half is like 7, 8. Second half is like, why did that happen? Like 2, 3. So we're going 4. I feel like overall 4.
No, I'm right there with you. I was thinking I'm going to give it either a 5 or a 4. I'm kind of agree with you. If we're looking at Good to Be Alive, the
death
interlude. A lot of,
I know we haven't talked about it too much. It's super simple and totally rocks. It's clear. I get what's going on. So
yeah. Yep. So with Good to Be Alive, like, yeah, the first parts, like, I feel like everything is clear of what's happening. It just draws out. Like it's really drawn out. It's really slow paced when we need more stuff to be put in there. So I feel like clarity, I do have to give it some good stuff. Why things happen. Yeah. If we changed around like the God and Satan parts, I feel like that would clarify some things. And, there's little nuances. I feel like we could make things clear. So I don't know. I'm think I'm going to give it a 5.
Very reasonable.
Yep. And then the death interlude, love that. I think it's a lot of fun, but it is mostly just to transition, get the full understanding of transition between the concrete and the abstract. I think that goes great.
It does it fine. And I'm fine keeping my score for that.
Yep.
Similarly with difficulty. The difficulty is mostly in just filling the time well as a character. It's not in the do this and do that. So you have to like set up the scene with the lunchroom. You have to block things, but I don't know. It's not too hard other than just the creativity of how you fill it. So I feel like giving it another 4 is reasonable because it's not going to be in the miming aspects. It's going to be in the person, enough time to polish it so that it's clear.
The characterization, colorization, I feel like are the 2 big things that'll put that into, really good territory for this. Cause the cues are super easy to hit. You have so much time to do the things that you need to do. The scenes are really simple. There's really not much to miss, like not a lot of technique or anything required. Even for the death interlude, like I talked about earlier, death interlude, you just do demon technique and everything else is
I would say
super easy.
Demon technique is hard in and of itself if you're doing it right because you're getting those thighs moving and moving around. So enough energy to do it well, but I agree that demon, it's not that bad.
Yeah. So in all, what'd you give me? You give it a 4?
I give it a 4.
I think we're gonna go over 4, just because you did. No, I was leaning toward somewhere around a 4 on difficulty. So.
All right, so style is really interesting. The concept as a whole, I give it some pretty decent style, but we've talked about it too much. The aspects in the middle, I feel like pretty basic to do. A school scene where people are at lunch and persecution for being a Christian. But I do like that transition, so I feel like I'm going to give it another 4 as far as like style. It has the meta style, it just needs better stuff in the plot itself that would help me.
Sure. Yep, and I don't know. With the style, I honestly think going for just looking at the death interlude, I think that gets like a 7 in style, in my opinion.
It gets a couple points
because
I'm including that as my score.
Yeah, because I think it's really interesting. I think it's a really fun way to do it. And honestly, I would rather use that part by itself for something else.
Just the beginning of Not Gonna Die.
Yeah, maybe in a prelude to Not Gonna Die. Yeah, do a duology. As far as like Good to Be Alive goes, I think that in and of itself, like we talk about breaking bounds, this is a very normal thing of like a school scene, cafeteria scene, them at the lockers, like nothing really crazy happening. Kind of her conversation with God and with
Knocking over
Satan.
books.
Not really, nothing really breaking any bounds, nothing super unique or anything like that. But I think, like you said, the concept as a whole, going from concrete to abstract as the purpose of it, does get some points for me. So I think I'm gonna give it like a 5. So
it's about right. We're hanging around the same area. So
yeah.
Tell us what you think down below. If you're a Skillet fan, what's the name of the lead guitar player? Boom. There you go. Tell me down
it's
below.
Definitely not John's wife.
So anyway.
What? Anyways. Shout outs to John Cooper. If you are watching this.
Yeah, John Cooper.
Happy birthday.
It's
not your birthday, but happy birthday because you're watching it on
again. If you want to be on the podcast, we'd have you. We'll put you right here in between us. We'll be huge like fangirls. I know you were on the podcast with Babylon Bee, so
yep, we know it's a thing you do. I would pay you a couple dollars and a bean burrito.
I'll up that to a couple bags of chips from his work.
Sold.
I'm Samuel,
and I'm Charleton.
Breaking the line. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Breaking the line.
You know, I just noticed sometimes I do it with my right hand, sometimes I do it with my left hand. I think you always do it with your right hand.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just messing things up. Anyways.
Mostly because I have this right here, so it's a little awkward. Yeah. Well, I don't know, but you're right-handed. And
I'm right-handed, and it feels more natural to do it right-handed, but doing it left-handed makes it symmetrical. I don't know.
That's the cool thing with two people is
no matter which way we do it,
it's mirrored or matching or like it works no matter what you do.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Breaking the line.
Thanks for that post credits.
Yeah,
you should put this part specifically after the music plays.
You think so? That's gonna mess up the end card though.
I don't know. We'll put the end card right here. Here's the end cards.
Put it the end card a second.
Right over your face.
Oh, cool.
See, nobody cares. Nobody's here anyway.
Yeah, nobody's watching this. Yeah, and everybody signs off at the end of, whenever the music starts playing.
So. Right, so this is the bonus content for you, one viewer. That's me.
Yeah. There's going to be like, somebody's going to notice and be like, why is there like 6 extra minutes after the podcast has ended?
Okay, we're not going to talk that long.
Yeah.
You have to get to go hang out with your brothers, play video games.
That's right.
What game are you playing tonight?
Probably Pal World.
Pal World?
Yeah.
What a noob.
No,
you could play Pokemon.
This is Pokemon. Pal World's just Pokemon, but better. Wow. Shots fired, Nintendo.
If you could play Pokemon more like with your friends, because Pal World, you're like in the same world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do that with Pokemon. It's very meant to be a solo RPG, which is sad.
Yeah.
They try to make it community based, but you're still basically doing the same thing separately together.
Yeah.
Rather than actually being meaningful relationships.
It's true.
Like Pico Park is a better community game than Pokemon.
Dang.
Other shots fired. Link down below to Pico Park. Just link down below to my personal YouTube page video of Rejoice's nightly routine. It's like the most views I have on my channel. It's like 1,000 views on it. I don't know. It's not a good video. It's a great video.
All right. Link down below to a random video that Samuel found. Breaking the line.
Breaking the line.